This is the third installment in a series of videos where I document the build of an entire Batfleck suit from Ben Affleck's cancelled Batman movie. In part 3, I'll be making the shoulder pads and biceps. All of the parts are created from 3D printed PLA and TPU material utilizing printing services provided by PCBWay. Let's go. What's up you guys, my name is Mark and welcome to my channel. Part 1 and 2 of this series was how to make the cowl and neck piece of the suit, and if you haven't seen those yet, you can click the link in the corner of the screen. For this video, I printed the parts using a combination of my printers at home as well as utilize printing services from PCBWay. I've been kind of all over the place with my videos the last few months, but from here on out, I plan to focus solely on the suit until it is finished. If you guys enjoy seeing videos such as this one, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Your support helps me out tremendously, and hopefully someday I can be doing this full time and posting videos weekly instead of monthly. Anyway, thank you for your support. Back to the video. Printing TPU can be really difficult, especially if you have a printer with a Bowden extruder. Without going through the trouble of narrowing down your settings or spending money on an expensive new printer, you can utilize PCBWay's printing services to get the perfect TPU prints every time. Granted, getting prints in TPU is a bit more expensive than resin or PLA, but if it saves you time and frustration, it just might be worth it. PCBWay is sponsoring this video, so I was able to get my TPU parts for free, but even if I didn't, I'd still probably spend the extra money to get them printed because they turn out so fantastic and require zero post-processing. If you're interested in checking out PCBWay, I'll have a link in the description below. I have all the parts I'm going to be working on in this video loaded here in Mesh Mixer. The shoulder and bicep pieces will be printed in black PLA on my Ender 3 S1, and the straps will be printed in TPU. One way you can save money and time is by using 1 to 2 inch nylon straps or elastic bands instead of TPU. These are super cheap on Amazon, and although I don't think they look as good, they provide a very similar aesthetic at a fraction of the cost. The straps highlighted here will be supplied by PCBWay, and just to show you guys the stark difference between purchasing printed parts and printing them at home, I'm going to print these 4 smaller straps in TPU on my Ender 3 S1. After putting in my order on PCBWay, my parts arrived in about 5 business days. As always, the quality was outstanding and the pieces offered good flexibility. These parts are 100% complete and don't need any post-processing done before installing them on the final suit. The shoulder and bicep pieces were printed at 95% of the original file size to match the rest of the suit. I oriented the parts in Cura as shown on the screen and printed them at 0.2mm layer height with tree supports. All the pieces printed great except for one of the biceps, which had a small failure on one of its tapered points. I actually don't think this defect warrants a whole new print, so I'm fine with just leaving it as is. To start the post-processing on the PLA pieces, I begin by roughly sanding all the parts with 150 grit sandpaper. This is done to remove layer skips and make large layer lines more prominent, so it's easier to know where more epoxy needs to be added when smoothing. Once sanded, the parts are rinsed with cold water and dish soap to remove excess dust. The edges on some of the parts are rather bumpy and could be smoothed a bit more even after sanding. An old soldering iron is run across the edge to help even out the bumps and layer lines. It doesn't have to be perfect. The epoxy applied in the next step will do most of the work to level things out. Today I'm using the XTC 3D brush on coating, but you can also use regular surface epoxy if you don't want to spend the extra cash. I made a video a while back comparing the two, so if you're interested and want to check that out, you can click the link in the corner of the screen. I found that it helps to mix the epoxy on a flat surface to prolong the work time and help reduce solidification. Epoxy not only helps smooth the printed pieces, but it also reinforces them by providing additional rigidity. One thick layer is applied to the front of every piece and is left to cure for a full 24 hours before handling. After curing, the parts need to be sanded. As much as I love sanding by hand, I decided to purchase an oscillating tool with a sand pad attachment and additional sandpaper. The small triangular shape of the pad allows for more precise sanding in harder to reach places than my old disc sander. The parts are first sanded with 180 grit followed by 240 grit. Avoid holding the sander in one spot too long, otherwise it will burn through the PLA. Constant movement is your friend here. Once the parts are uniformly sanded using the oscillating tool, a layer of Rust-Oleum's primer is applied to every piece. For initial priming, only one layer is applied before wet sanding the parts with 320 grit sandpaper. Incorporating water into the sanding process helps keep the sandpaper from clogging and prevents dust from getting everywhere. I tried to avoid using the oscillating sander after applying primer because it can be extremely easy to remove too much and end up with an uneven surface. After sanding with 320, the parts are gone over again with 600 grit sandpaper. Another layer of Rust-Oleum's primer is applied before moving on to sanding with 1000 all the way up to 2000 grit. I spend a bit more time sanding the biceps and outer shoulder pads because the inner portion of the shoulders will be covered with textured paint, hiding a lot of the layer lines. Once sanding is completed, the parts are nice and smooth and it's time to move to painting. Frog tape is used to mask off the outer portion of the shoulder pads. Any parts that shouldn't receive textured paint need to be covered. 2 coats of Rust-Oleum's textured paint are applied to both shoulder pieces. The color of the paint doesn't matter because it will all be covered up with black. Make sure to let the textured paint dry in between coats because it is prone to run. The tape is carefully removed with the help of an X-Acto knife, and 2 layers of Rust-Oleum's matte black are applied to all 4 pieces, followed by 2 layers of matte clear coat. As mentioned earlier, the 4 smaller TPU straps were printed using my Ender 3 S1. Here is a comparison between the TPU pieces I printed at home and the ones I ordered from PCBWay. The difference is night and day. The ordered parts have 0 layer lines and a matte finish opposed to the other parts' glossy finish. If you can afford to spend the extra cash, I highly recommend just ordering your TPU parts from PCBWay. It'll save you a bunch of time and frustration. Before I move on to adding fine detailing, I want to have a plan in place for attaching the shoulders and biceps to my suit. In addition to the mannequin, I purchased a dark gray tactical shirt that will be used as my undergarment. The bicep is attached to the shoulder piece via the TPU straps, so as long as the shoulder piece is supported, the bicep should naturally stay in place as well. My initial thought is to use Velcro to connect the shoulders. I install some craft foam on the edge of the shoulder pads and add the Velcro. The Velcro doesn't stick very well to fabric, so I add a dollop of contact cement to help secure the strips to the shirt. Overall, this actually worked really well, and I still had the ability to move my arm around without the shoulder pad falling off. Now that the installation has been verified, some silver metallic paint is used to add some fine details to all 4 3D printed pieces. I utilize a tiny paintbrush to dab on small amounts of paint to the edges and crevices. This is always my favorite part of every build because I get to bring some extra creativity to where I think natural weathering would occur. It can sometimes take a few hours to get all the details to look how I want, but I usually just put on some music and take my time with it. After the silver accents are added, contact cement is used to secure the TPU straps into place and connect the shoulder pads and biceps. To allow for extra mobility, an elastic strap is glued between the short TPU piece and shoulder pad on the back of each arm. This will allow for a more full range of motion when I move my arms up and down. Here is a short video of me wearing the shoulder and bicep pieces. If I have trouble with the TPU straps coming undone, I might add some more elastic bands on the inside between the parts to help keep things connected. Overall, they aren't too tight and I still have a good amount of mobility, although raising my arms above my head is challenging. I'm really happy with how this portion of the build turned out, and I'm excited to move to the next part, which will be the back and chest pieces. Make sure you remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more 3D printing and cosplay content. I'll see you in the next video, and stay classy.